Rufus Spears makes an argument that there were 2 points in world history when a near perfect political solution came about through great leadership. One was at the beginning of American history, when the Revolution, Constitution, and first president established the new republic. The other was at the start of the Roman Empire, the Pax Romana, when a single man, Augustus, brought peace and prosperity to what had been a chaotic world. Even for historians who study him professionally, it is difficult to grasp the achievement of Augustus. Little in his youth hinted at greatness, yet through extraordinary personal skills and strength of character, he created an entire era of human history. On one hand, he brought an end to 100 years of civil war, what historians call the Roman Revolution. On the other hand, he established institutions that would last 250 years after his death, a longer time than our nation has existed. This greatest of ancient emperors, who ruled for 45 years, was named Augustus Caesar. What leadership qualities did Augustus have that helped him to put such a strong mark on human history? Number one, like some great leaders, Augustus enjoyed luck. He grew up in extremely dangerous times in which one wrong move would have meant death. It was luck that made Julius Caesar adopt his great-nephew Octavian, Augustus's given name, to be his only son and heir. After all, they hardly knew each other. It was luck that helped the young Octavian, with almost no military experience, to defeat Mark Antony, one of Rome's greatest generals, and Cleopatra in battle. It was luck that made the author Virgil inspired to write an epic, the Aeneid, that would broadcast the glories of the Rome that Augustus had built. Number two, Augustus had vision. He believed Rome was the greatest civilization that had ever existed, or would ever exist, an imperium sin fine, an empire without an end. More, he foresaw, with the help of an astrologer or a fortune teller, his destiny as the supreme leader of the Romans. This sense of personal destiny drove his passion to lead his people for almost 50 years. Augustus combined Rome's destiny with his own and identified Rome's greatness with his own greatness. Number three, Augustus had foresight. The Greek historian Thucydides believed foresight, or having anticipation or forward thinking, was one of the essential qualities of a good leader. It is the ability to see problems before they overwhelm the people and to respond with solutions that work in both the short term and the long term. Augustus understood, as had Julius Caesar before him, that the empire had grown too big to be governed by the old Republican Constitution, or the Republic. Staying the course was not an option, and he devised many plans to fix the issues. Number four, Augustus had principles. He developed a matter-of-fact political philosophy that guided his actions as a leader. His goal was to complete anything that made Rome greater. With few exceptions, he had an unfailing sense for policies that increased the strength, security, order, peace, and prosperity of the empire, therefore creating a Pax Romana, or time of Roman peace. For example, to demonstrate his respect for property rights, he granted a request from an old woman to keep her little house at the edge of his new forum, or downtown, that he wanted to build. So he ordered a wall around the forum to be built around her house in a zigzag way to protect her property. Number five, Augustus had strong morals. He led by example, reinvigorating Roman religion through his personal devotion, or his personal religion, and the construction of many temples. To inspire Roman soldiers and citizens, he time and again adopted a simple lifestyle to recall or take back the life of luxuries that had been happening during the Republic. He obeyed the laws of the empire, even exiling or sending out his own daughter Julia for breaking them. Augustus was a consensus builder. Indeed, this was a minimum qualification in the 1st century BC if someone wanted to avoid assassination. With caution and patience, with remarkable insight into human nature, Augustus knew when to strike at enemies and when to show mercy. He successfully fought dangerous personalities like Mark Antony, Lepidus, and paranoid senators, advancing past each of them on the chessboard of power without getting himself checkmated. On the other hand, when he attended a Senate meeting, he always greeted the members in the House by name, like he knew them and was friends with them. When one senator, Gallus Serenius, had suddenly become blind, Augustus would meet him in his house to help escort him to the Senate meetings. Number 7, Augustus was a great communicator. In his days as a student in college, he was tutored by Greek scholars and already by the age of 19 was unusually eloquent or well-spoken. He learned early the power of symbols, whether on coins or in architecture, sculpture, or literature, to broadcast his achievements. Perhaps better than any other leader of the ancient world, he recognized the value of mass communication and propaganda. He wrote his own autobiography and had it sent out to temples throughout the empire so that people could read about his accomplishments. More significantly, he encouraged an author named Virgil to write an epic of Rome, the Aeneid, one of the greatest poems of all time, to brag about Augustus's successes. Number 8, his leadership was backed by results. He launched the Pax Romana, a time when the average Roman lived with greater material well-being and security than would any generation of common people until the 1800s. His vision led to a building program to make the city more beautiful and awe-inspiring. He said, "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble." It was also more sanitary or clean. One of his greatest gifts to the city was a beautifully engineered sewage system. The empire was greater in extent than the continental United States, yet unified by one language, one currency or money, and one system of justice. Moreover, Augustus was an extremely capable administrator who created an army of dedicated civil servants, the greatest civil service system in the world until the 20th century. The system of roads he built to connect the empire would not be rivaled until the 19th century. The people in Rome lived in peace. There was tolerance of foreign religious practices, which allowed Jewish people to come to Rome and worship their own God, and they weren't forced to worship the Roman emperor. And there was an unusual sense of social mobility. You could be born a slave in this empire, achieve your freedom, go on to become a multimillionaire, and play an important role in society. This was not an isolated case. It happened again and again, said a historian. All of this peace and prosperity were purchased with relatively relaxed state bureaucracy and relatively relaxed tax burden. The average Roman had to only work about 2 days a year to pay his taxes. The average American has to work about 130. No wonder it is said of the Augustan age that it is one of the greatest ages of humankind. Number 9, Augustus, with his political instincts, was opportunistic. His entire political life, he displayed a sense of superb timing whenever he wanted something to change. Sometimes opportunity arose due to the death of a political opponent, sometimes due to the enemy's mistake. Sometimes a new situation presented itself, and Augustus had the ability to see exciting new possibilities, whereas others saw it as just another thing that they had to deal with. Number 10, the common citizen, Augustus must have had charisma or charm, an appealing personality. It was apparently no problem for everyday Romans, a polytheistic people, to welcome him into their group of gods while he still walked among them. They truly adored him. Based on the honorifics or titles he received in life, it is arguable that he was more loved by more people than any other ancient emperor. But did he have faults? Yes. Augustus, as a leader, certainly had to bear his share of disasters and defeats, the most famous being 3 Roman legions wiped out by a German army on the German frontier. That was the biggest loss of Roman soldiers since Hannibal's attack on Italy. There was also an unappealing rawness to Augustus. He was no stranger to brutality on his path to power. Despite the affection he must have felt toward Julius Caesar, the great uncle who adopted him, that affection did not transfer to Caesarion, the child of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. And interestingly, the only son by blood that Julius Caesar was known to have had. I'm not sure what technically to call the relationship between Octavian and Caesarion. Stepbrothers, distant cousins, but I'm certain that the future Augustus was jealous of Caesarion's status as Julius Caesar's only son. As Plutarch famously recorded, too many Caesars are not well. After Cleopatra took her own life, Augustus had the 17-year-old Caesarion murdered in cold blood. And although he adored his wife, she apparently poisoned any other possible heir that would take the throne after Augustus died. And she wanted her son from a previous marriage, Tiberius, to be the only prince left standing. There's even speculation that Livia, Augustus's wife, fed her beloved Augustus a poisoned pear when he was 77 years of age to get him out of the way so that Tiberius, who at that point was himself no youth, could finally rule Rome. Augustus was also the first Roman to take the title of emperor and to hold the top position longer than any other person had. Julius Caesar tried and was assassinated just a few years before for the same issue. A historian once said of him, "The power of both the people and the Senate passed entirely into the hands of Octavian, and he became, strictly speaking, a monarch, or monarchy would be the truest name for it. Romans, to be sure, so hated the idea of monarchy that they called their emperors neither dictators nor kings nor anything of the sort." This dark side of Augustus's biography balances out the light and shades in our picture of the Roman emperor, a flesh and blood being whose problems and all made him human. Nevertheless, in terms of political leadership and statecraft, he is arguably one of the best leaders of all time.